guys, today's lesson is going to be over turning a fraction into a percent and vice versa, percent into a fraction. So let's discuss what percent means. Percent means 1 part in every 100. In Spanish, percent means por ciento, which means for every 100. Okay, so let's, when you take let's talk about a quiz. Okay, let's say you take a 10 question quiz and you got 8 correct. So let's write what we know. Okay, I have a total of 10 questions and I got 8 of them correct. Now when your teacher grades it, do you get an 8%? No, that doesn't make sense. Okay, you got way higher than an 8%. If I was to give you an 8%, you'd get upset. Okay, so to find the percent, okay, remember, percent means 1 part in every 100. So let's go back to your quiz. You had a total of 10 questions and you got 8 correct. A percent is out of 100. So I'm going to make my denominator 100 to figure out the percent. So I'm going to go from 10 to 100, 10 times 10. What you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. 8 times 10 gives me 80. This right here is your answer, guys. When I grade it, you're not going to get an 8%. You're going to get an 80% because the word percent means out of 100. Not out of 10, but out of 100. So let's try a few more. Let's say this time on Friday you took a 5-question quiz. Okay, so I'm going to write my total. Okay, I took 5 questions, and out of the 5, okay, I got 3 correct. All right, so again, is your teacher going to give you a 3%? No, can't do that because a percent is out of 100. So I'm going to make my denominator 100, and 5 times 20 is 100. What you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. 3 times 20 is 60. All right, so now that you have it out of 100, you get your percent. Your percent would be a 60%. All right, so is it getting pretty easy right now? It's super easy. As long as you remember, percent means in Spanish por ciento, which means per 100. All right, so as long as every time you hear the word percent, anytime you read the word percent, think out of 100, out of 100, out of 100. All right, let's try a few more. Your DCA is coming up. The DCA has a total of 20 questions. So again, guys, always write what you know. All right, so I have a total of 20 questions. I did much better. I studied, I asked questions in class, and I answered 19 correct out of my test. Okay, if the teacher was to give me a 19%, I would totally have an argument with the teacher because that's not my percent. I did way better than a 50%. I answered more than 10 correct. I answered 19 out of 20. That means my grade should be very close to 100. All right, so a percent is out of 100. So I'm going to make my denominator 100. All right, to figure out the percent. 20 times 5 is 100. 19 times 5 is 95. All right, so my percent would be 95%. That's much better than this grade. Okay, this is much, much better. So guys, again, I'm not going to waste too much time explaining this. Super easy concept. Percent is out of 100. Now, here, sometimes you're going to get some weird fractions where, making your denominator 100, it's not going to work. It's not going to be so easy. All right, so I'm going to show you a different way. Okay, so let's do 1/5. Okay, let's find the percent. All right, the percent of 1/5 would be 5 times 20. 1 times 20 is 20. So 1/5 would be 20%. Now I'm going to show you a different way to find it. Okay, I'm going to use the same fraction, 1 out of 5. Okay, if I want to find the percent, another thing that you can do is something that you're very, very familiar with. You can divide. Y'all remember, numerator starts with an N, it goes on the inside. Okay, turn it into a decimal, line up the dot, give it all you got. All right, here we go. 5 can go into 1, 0. 5 can go into 10, 2 times. And then I don't need those extra zeros. Now notice that my answer is 0.2 or 2/10. Okay, my answer, so my answer is 2/10, but my answer needs to be in hundreds, right? All right, so 10 times 10 is 100, 2 times 10 is 20. You see? So my answer would still be 20%. So a really neat trick, guys, is super easy. Once you turn it into a decimal, if you move it 2 times to the hundreds place, you get your percent. Let's try a few more. Let's go back to the question, or actually to the fraction I had earlier. Okay, I had 19 on my test out of 20 correct. Okay, and we agreed that a percent's out of 100. All right, so to find my percent, I'm going to multiply 20 times 5 and 19 times 5, which will give me 95. And earlier we agreed that my answer would be 95%. Okay, so percent is out of 100. Real easy. Now, the second method, like we just mentioned, the second method to turn a fraction into a percent will be to turn it into a decimal. And I can divide. Numerator starts with an N, it goes on the inside. Denominator on the outside. All right, 20 can go into 1, 0 times. 20 can go into 19, 0 times. 20 can go into 190, 9 times. Okay, so I'm going to subtract, bring down the 0, and 20 can go into 100, 5 times. All right, the extra zeros we don't need. So my answer, if you can read it, you can write it. My answer is 95 hundredths. It's already in the hundreds place. So it's 95%. All right, let's do another one. This one's real easy. It's very common. Okay, 1/4. All right, if I do it as a percent is out of 100. How do I get from 4 to 100? Times 25. What you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. All right, so 1/4 would be equivalent to 25%, because a percent is out of 100, not out of 4, out of 100. So I'm going to turn this into a decimal. Okay, numerator starts with an N, it goes on the inside. 4 can go into 1, 0, 4 can go into 10 2 times, and 4 can go into 20 5 times. So if you can read it, you can write it. That says 25%. So guys, again, you can either do it equivalent to 100, or you can turn your fraction into a decimal and then into a percent. Okay, so here I have 2/5. I want to turn it into a percent. A percent's out of 100. Again, guys, you're going to hear me repeat myself over and over and over. I sound like a parrot. I want you to hear me at all times. Like, pretend that you're actually. So let's try 2/5. A percent is out of 100. I'm not going to say my answer is 2%, okay, because this is out of 5, not out of 100. A percent is out of 100, so I'm going to go ahead and solve it. 2 times 20 is 40, so my answer would be 40%. All right, I'm going to turn it into a decimal, just for those of you that would like to do it this way. Decimal, decimal, all the zeros in the world. 5 can go into 2, 0. 5 can go into 20. 4 times. I don't need these extra zeros. All right, so my answer is 4/10, but a percent is out of 100. Okay, so 10 times 10, 4 times 10, 40. See, same thing like above, 40%. Now, like I said, guys, if you don't want to do this extra process, okay, if you don't want to do this part here, it's really easy. Once you have your answer, after you divide it, which is 4/10, just move the decimal until you get to the hundreds place. 1, 2. All right, what can I put in this empty space? A 0. And it becomes 40%. All right, so here, I'm sure a lot of you would prefer to write an equivalent fraction out of 100. But again, guys, it's not always going to be easy. Look at this one. I have 1/8. Okay, a percent is out of 100. Now, from 8 to 100, it's going to be hard for me to multiply a number times 8 to get 100. So this one's not as quick as the other one, so it would be easier for me to turn it into a decimal. Okay, numerator starts with an N, 8 goes on the inside, denominator on the outside. All the zeros that you want. 8 can go into 1, 0, 8 can go into 10, 1 time. 8 can go into 20, 2 times. And 8 can go into 40, 5 times. Alright, so my answer is 0 and 125 thousandths. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my easy trick. I'm going to move the decimal until I get to the hundreds place. Tenths, hundreds. Put the decimal there. My answer becomes 12.5%, or 12 and 5/10%. To prove my point, I'm going to write the answer like I saw it. Okay, that means 125 thousandths. A percent is out of 100. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by 10. 1,000 divided by 10 is 100. What I do to the top, the bottom I must do to the top. Now guys, I'm going to erase a little bit over here just because I need some space. Again, to prove my point. So I'm going to go ahead and divide. Numerators, 120, we're at 125 divided by 10. 125 divided by 10. 10 can go into 1, 0. 10 can go into 12, 1 time. 10 can go into 25, 2 times. I have a remainder, so I'm going to add my decimals. All the zeros in the world. 10 can go into 50, 5 times. And I'm done. So, that's 12.5. That's out of 100, so my answer is 12 and 5/10%. Alright, so I hope I wasn't confusing you guys. It's real easy to turn a fraction into a decimal. A fraction into a percent. Okay, a percent is always out of 100, so make sure that you make it equivalent out of 100. Now, you give it a shot and see if you can work these out. Alright, I'm going to give you these problems. 3/4, 7/10. Okay, so here's question number 1, number 2, and number 3. 1/3. Okay, what I'm going to ask you to do is to please convert these fractions into percents. Remember, a percent is always out of 100. Okay, so I'm just going to give you some time, work it out, and see if you have the answers correct in just a moment. Okay, now that you have paused the video to work it out, let's see if you got it correct. The answer to number 1 is 75%. The answer to number 2 is 70%. And this one may have been a little tricky for some of you. The answer to number 3 is 33 and 3/10 repeating percent. Okay, so I'm going to actually go over them to explain it. Number 1, 3/4. A percent is out of 100. 4 times 25 is 100. 3 times 25 is 75. So my percent is 75% out of 100. All right, 7/10 It's not 7%, okay, because that's out of 10. My percent needs to be out of 100. 10 times 10 is 100. 7 times 10 is 70. So I get 70%. Now the one I'm concerned about, just to make sure that you know how to do it, is number 3. So number 3 was 1/3. Okay, a percent's out of 100. Now this one was a little tough for me to understand. 3 times what number is 100? I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it into a decimal. Okay, numerator starts with an N. It goes on the inside. Denominator on the outside. All right, here we go. 3 can go into 1, 0. 3 can go into 10. 3 times. 3 can go into 10. 3 times. Okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. 3 can go into 10. 3 times. Am I going to continue this forever? No, so I'm going to stop. But remember, a percent is out of 100. So I'm going to move my decimal till I get to the hundreds place. 1, 2, to the hundreds place. So my answer is 33.3. Remember, the numbers we're going to continue going. Okay, so I'm going to put a bar on top, and that's my answer. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it. To turn a fraction into a percent, make sure it's out of 100. Okay, a percent is out of 100. Whatever numbers they throw at you, make sure it's out of 100. If I have 1/5, okay, make it out of 100. Solve for it. You can either turn it into an equivalent fraction out of 100, or you can turn it into a decimal and divide. And make sure you move your decimal point once you're done. Move it 2 times until you get to the hundredths place. All right? Any questions, make sure you email me.